Shalom, my friends. Welcome to Torah Anytime. This is an amazing idea. I want to tell you two ideas. If we can get two in, we'll see what happens. The Mem Ches Devarim Torah Niknes Behem. 48 things we need to get Kinyan Torah. Now, when we talk about Kinyan Torah, it doesn't just mean some basic knowledge of Torah. It means an understanding of Torah, a proper understanding of Torah, at least according to our own Madrega. And it also means an ability to put that Torah into our heart so it affects us. Now, interestingly enough, Mem Ches, which is 48, is the same gematria as Moyach, which means mind. Because if you want to have a Torah mind, you need to have these 48 things. Rav Moshe Meir Weiss said that, a beautiful, beautiful word. The other idea is that Torah is called Eshes Chayil. Eshes Chayil, a woman of valor. That's the Torah. The gematria of Chayil is also 48. To the extent that we have these 48, it's shaykh to get Torah. Now, you don't have everything, that's fine, but like the more of these we have and the better we have them, the more shaykh it is, the more possible it is for us to acquire Torah, understand Torah, remember Torah. Here we go. Jump into it. The first one is called Betalmud or Belimud, which means learning. Learning. Now, people say, why is it necessary to talk about learning first? Because, of course, if you want to learn Torah, you have to learn Torah. Well, if it didn't say learning, what do people do? They go to the gym, they do different things, like, they buy all the equipment, they got all the stuff, they got the drinks, they got the outfit, and they got everything's right, and they don't spend time exercising, yeah? The first thing is, you want to be able to learn Torah, it's important for us all to recognize, am I maximizing my time in front of the Gemara, in front of the Sefer, listening to the Shir? How am I doing it? The Talmud, that's number one. The second one is to know the facts of Torah. Very important idea. It's nice to talk about an idea, there's a whole idea, but if you already know the words, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, you know those words. They're familiar with you. They're already inside. And someone comes and tells you a Devar Torah on this idea, then they're telling you a Devar Torah on what you already have in your mind, or you already have in your heart. And then it's a completely different level than if they just told you a Devar Torah on something that you hear. I'm from South Africa. I don't play baseball. And now I tell you about a triple play. This play to this play to this play. First I tell you what the game is, then I tell you, like, oh, that's interesting. But if you know what a triple play is, see, boom, 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 they got three guys out in one play. That's amazing. Not saying that's important, but you get the idea. So the Havdil Elef Havdar is when you learn Torah, if you have a pasuk already in your head, or a Mishna, or a Gemara, you have that fact nice and clear, and then you get the Rashi, then you get the Taisos, then you get the Ramban, then you get the Kasha, the question, then the answer. Everything changes. It is one of our goals, especially before Shavuos, but our entire lives, to get facts of Torah as much as we can. Get that Mishnah, get that pasuk, get it clear. A basic translation, a basic understanding, that's number one. Matter of fact, the Gemara even says, Ligris Inish. First, the person should get a girsa of a hadra lispar. First, get the girsa, get the facts, get the words down, nice and basic, simple, working understanding, and then go back and understand at a higher level. That's the first thing. It's super important idea. The second thing is to learn from others, to learn from a Rav, and not just from ourselves. The reason for that is because we can't derive our own chachma. The chachma of the Torah, we can't get from our own wisdom. Can't do that, okay? The second thing is that people make mistakes all the time. So because you make mistakes all the time, it's important to have a Rav in order to correct us when we make a mistake. The third thing is that you might have kashas, you might have difficulties, you don't understand something, or my understanding is too limited. I only have this one idea in the Torah, and I don't see the big picture. That's why it's so important to Mishamish Talmidei Chacham, which is one of the ones later on. But to learn from a Rav is going to give you the bigger picture. A side point, I saw once that the lashon of limud, the language of limud, which lomed, to learn, means to learn from another person, as opposed to shaina, which means to learn by yourself. Now, the third idea under limud, all under the first thing in the 48 ways, is hasmada, to maximize the learning time. This is a very big deal. The Medrash Shmuel says this is what's going to lead us to actually learn. How do I accomplish this? So the first thing, A, of Hasmada, is to learn all the time, is to think of myself as always lacking in Torah. That does not mean I feel bad. It just means I'm not finished. I have still what to do. I want more. Like when you're learning Torah, and it's like eating a meal, right? I'm hungry, clearly I had one bite. I'm not finished because I have the awareness that I'm hungry and I want to eat more. You got to be hungry when it comes to Torah. I got to know that I'm not full, I'm not finished, yeah? And even if I am hungry, I still want some more because in here I know there's more. Sometimes it happens, a person knows, like they don't, it's not good to eat too much. But if you know that you're not going to eat for a very long time, even if you feel full, you still want to eat some more. Right before Yom Kippur, right before Tisha B'Av. Chas v'sholom, we shouldn't have a Tisha B'Av, but you get the idea. It's like you want so badly to stop eating, but I need to fill my stomach because I'm not going to eat for a long time. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but you get the idea. Torah is the same way. I got to stay hungry for Torah. I gotta want it when I get a chance. If you have that little craving, it's nighttime, you have that sugar sweet craving, you want something sweet, and you look here and you look there, and you're like, how am I gonna get this? You look, oh, we don't have anything, like, what's open 24 hours? It's 12 o'clock at night. You think, go through all, your mind becomes a genius. Because when you want something, you keep looking and looking and looking. That's the idea of Torah. I want it, it's for me. I want that Torah. Now, the third idea here, or the second idea, the same idea, is B, is the increase the chashivas of Torah in my eyes. I see Torah as important. I once heard from Rav Orlik, he said, the best place to learn something is a submarine. The old-time submarines. Because if something breaks on the submarine, everyone stops, and everyone stops to look, how do I fix that thing? Why? Because if that man is the only guy there who knows how to fix the submarine, and something happens to him, we're in a lot of trouble. So everyone stops and looks. It's the perfect environment. Why? Because survival is very important to every person. And they know if that thing breaks and he's the only guy who knows how to fix it, we're in a lot of trouble. So I want to know how to fix that, even though it's not my job. Torah is the same way. It's for me. Torah is for me. The chashivas, what it does, it changes the world. The Baruch Hu made the world based on Torah. Hashem created the world. Bishvil Torah, bereshis. Bishvil rashis. For the sake of that which is called rashis, which is Torah, Hashem made the entire world, and you got a chance to sit down and listen to a shir, or learn a Mishna, or Gemara, or Halacha. It's incredible. That's the chashivas. Wow, not a small thing, because nothing happens. When you sit and learn, you don't hear anything amazing. What do you hear? You're sitting and learning, and like you have a sefer in front of you, maybe you have a chavruso, or you're listening to a shir, or you're going to a shir. You don't see, light coming down from Shemayim. You don't hear great dramatic music in the background, but of course Baruch Hu sees and he's paying attention, and you're shaking the universe with your Torah. You have to know even the lightest Torah is that way. Part of this, of course, is not to be stopped when you get a block. Don't say, oh, I can't do it, it's hard for me, it's difficulty. There's going to be difficulty, of course, that's the case. Now, C of this is to know that if I don't add to my learning, I'm going to forget it. If you accomplish anything at all, and you really worked hard to accomplish that thing, you don't want to lose it. You don't want to forget. You don't want to give it to, you start painting your house. Imagine you start painting your house and you spend a lot of time painting the living room, right? It takes 3, 4, 5 hours. You're painting the ceiling. It's hard to do. You're painting the edges, everything. It takes a long time. And they tell you, listen, if you don't keep painting for the next 2 hours, all the paint that you've done is going to disappear. What? Yeah. So Torah is the same way. U'deloi moisif yosif. A person who doesn't add loses his Torah. You don't have to be nervous, don't be scared, that's for sure, but the purpose is to keep on learning and don't say, listen, I'm already arrived, I'm finished, I'm done, that's it, I'm done. Now, number 4 in the same area of B'Talmud, B'Limud, is to make my identity a person who learns. There's a wise man once said, the strongest force in the human personality is the need to remain consistent with your identity, with how you see yourself. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to remain consistent with the way you see yourself, with your identity, who I am. If you see yourself as an adventurous person, then when you have a chance to take an adventure, I'm there. That's who I am. Or if you're a kind person, even if it's late at night, it's hard for you to do this, but you know what? I'm a kind person. Someone needs my help. I'm there. That's who I am. So if we can somehow see ourselves as, oh, I am a loimed. I'm a person who learns Torah. That's who I'm about. I'm a lamdin. That's my purpose. I'm going to be able to, I'm in the world for this. Then you're going to go after all the opportunities. You see yourself as a teacher. You see yourself as a father, a mother, that, well, I want to teach. I'm a father. I got to take care of my child. That's who I am. So if we can see ourselves, that who I am is a loimed. I was sent here on a mission from Hashem, and a huge part of my mission is to be able to learn Torah. That's what I'm for. That's what I'm here for. And if I'm a woman, then my purpose is to be able to enable my husband and my kids to learn Torah. I'm here to enable them. That's what I'm here for. Good. Number 5 is to stay in the mode of learning as much as I can. Hold myself, see myself as a Talmud, not a Rav. That's why we call our sages Talmidei Chachamim, students of sages. And ask, is Reb Chaim, can he ask you a Talmud Chacham? Massive, but he's Talmud Chacham. He's still a Talmid. He's still a student. The next idea is really an important idea, is to learn something new. But Talmud or Belimud means when I learn this, I'm learning it new. My friend, one of my friends, wonderful person, he told me that he learned in Rav Tzvi Kushelevsky. Rav Tzvi Kushelevsky is a big Rosh Yeshiva here in Yerushalayim. And he learned in his yeshiva for a period of time, in the Kollel for a while. And he said every time Rav Tzvi Kushelevsky would approach a Gemara, even though he knew the Gemara Baal Peh backwards and forwards, he knew how the Gemara plugged in across the whole Shas, he still approached the Gemara as if he's learning it for the first time. As if, I don't really know anything. Let me see, What's that? That's an interesting Rashi. That's an interesting language. Why is that? Or why does the Gemara ask this way? I would have given a different answer. Like, you have to approach it and always look for something new in the Torah. Even if you think you know it already, the Torah is infinitely deep. There's always another layer, another layer, and another layer. If we approach the Torah in a certain way, like, yes, I've heard the idea, I know the words, but the depth, I didn't even begin to approach. That's a different story. Good. The other way, belimud or betalmud means I learn it in a way that I remember what I learn, a retention of learning. There's a great phrase that education is what you remember after you finish school. It's what sticks, not what I crammed for the test and I got the 90. It means it's what's still there. That's what education is. So, betalmud or belimud means I learned something. Yeah, I remember it now. It's part of who I am. That's what you want. Now, by the way, what a lot of people try to do is they try to go into learning a shiur, or being in the middle of the shiur, saying, I want to learn this in a way that I can remember this. A great way to do that is while you're in the middle of learning, while you're in the middle of the shiur itself, say, what did he just say? What did the Rav say? Or what's this main point here in the Gemara, the Mishna, whatever I'm learning? What's this idea of the Chumash or this class I'm hearing? What's this idea? Oh yeah, that's the idea. What did he say so far? I said this and this. Try to review as you're going along. Of course, if you take notes, that's fantastic. They say you remember 30% more of what you write down than what you don't write down. Even if you don't even look at your notes, you remember more. So it's good to remember, I want to remember this, I want to remember this. Now, you can't remember everything, that's for sure, but ask yourself, what are the main points here? How can I remember this? What's the main focus of this shiur? What's the point? What are the 3 main points, if whatever they are? Good. Now, this one's big. I teach in yeshiva. It's wonderful. Baruch Hashem, Hashem has graced me with the ability to teach in yeshiva. I'm very happy about that. And it's an amazing thing. You see guys that sometimes have a hard time when they're first learning Gemara. They're having a hard time. They've been exposed to Gemara a little bit, or some guys were, but now they're upping their level of learning. And they want to be able to learn some more. And it's hard. They say, Rabbi, it's hard. I don't really like to learn. I said, there's no such thing as someone who doesn't like to learn. Everyone loves to learn. Everyone wants to learn Torah. What's the proof? What's the raya? You have these Jews in Europe that were not religious. They went off the derech. They had no connection to Torah. And they would smoke cigarettes on Shabbos. But what are they doing when they're smoking cigarettes? They're learning a Gemara. What? You ask a guy like, you mean you're going off the derech and you have a Gemara in front of you? If you're going off the derech, the first thing I throw away is the Gemara, sometimes people say. Sometimes. Why? Because they're not actually learning. They're learning how to learn. There's an enormous difference between learning and learning how to learn. Does that mean a person who's learning already knows everything? Of course it doesn't mean that, right? It doesn't mean that. But let's say like this, when you're driving, you're learning how to drive, sometimes they have a driver's ed class. You have to take you keep your hands on 3 and 9 or 2 and 10 all the time, right? And the instructor's sitting next to you, right? And they have their own steering wheel and they have their own brake. And you go like 1 mile an hour over the speed, boom, they hit the brake. Like, I was driving 7 miles an hour. I told you 6.5. What do you want from me, right? That's not driving. That's learning how to drive. Is that fun? No! When you first get your license and the first time you're in your car with your family, your friends, the first time you're driving by yourself, that's called driving. What do? You don't drive it at 3 and 9, you drive at 6, 12, yeah? I'm not saying you should, but you get the idea. That's called driving. So when you're learning, you have to get past the breakthrough. You have to make that breakthrough. Keep going until you know how to learn, until you get this idea. Now, a long time ago, I heard Rav Nachman Bowman Zatzal once say, someone asked him, I want to learn Tanakh. The guy's in yeshiva, is learning for a long time. He's in Kollel, learning very well. And he said, but I don't really know what Tanakh now. He wanted to learn Mishlei. So he started learning Mishlei, and he said, Rav Bowman, I don't know what to do. It's so slow. I can open a Gemara, I can understand the Gemara and the Rashi and the Taisus, but the Mishlei, it's hard for me. All these words are new. I don't know the words. I don't know I'm not familiar with it. He said, don't worry, just keep going. Like everything else, keep on going, and eventually you're going to make that breakthrough. You're going to understand it, and you're going to get it, and the guy got better, and he's able to learn other form of Tanakh. It's amazing. Keep on going, get the breakthrough. Don't just learn how to learn, but Talmud, actually know and get to the point where you know how to learn. Okay, next, number 9. Very simple idea. Ask questions in order to be able to understand it. Belimud, part of learning means I'm asking questions to understand. I know this idea before, I know that idea before. The more facts we have, like the first thing we mentioned, we have the facts of Torah, then as soon as you start to learn something, you start to see, well, this pasuk seems to say the opposite of that pasuk. It's a wonderful thing. There's a man in the neighborhood that I live in. He must be in his late 80s. He's a very old man. And I think he's from Morocco, but I'm not sure, North Africa. I'm not sure exactly where he's from. He came to Eretz Yisrael when he was much older, and for whatever reason, he didn't have a chance to learn. Maybe he learned Mishnayos, but he didn't learn Gemara. Maybe he learned a little bit of Mishnah, I'm not sure. And now he goes to a Daf Yomi Shir. I see him going to this Daf Yomi Shir every single day. But this man knows Tanakh so well. He knows the psukim in the Torah so well that when the Gemara brings a pasuk, he knows how to say it perfectly, for sure. But besides that, the Gemara brings a pasuk and explains something. And he says, wait a second. But there's another pasuk someplace else that says not like that. And very often he asks the Gemara's question itself. He asks the Gemara's question. And then the Gemara gets to the emes. There's an idea here, there's an idea here, and here's how the two of them come together. But because this man has the material down so clearly, he naturally asked the question. It's incredible. There's a story about a guy going through Shas, also with a lot of chazar, a lot of review. And then he was doing Gemara Rashi without Tosfos. And we'd often ask Tosfos kasha between two different Gemaras that were contradiction because he had the Gemara so clear. Fantastic. So ask questions, that's belimud. Now, number 10 is total focus. At least while I'm learning, I'm not thinking about everything else. This is all I'm thinking about. This is my focus. There is nothing else to do. Now, if you have a lot to do, say to yourself, listen, I can't do more than one thing at a time anyway. So at least what I can do is while I'm here, let me be here. I can't do more than one thing at once. It's not possible, especially when it comes to learning. This is my learning time. I have time afterwards to take care of what I need to take care of, and that's what I'm doing. I'm taking care of it. Yeah. If my focus on life is to be able to acquire Torah, that's what I want to do, then everything's going to change. So that's the concept of belimud. Number 2, the second one in the 48 is shmias ha'oizen. Shmias ha'oizen means the hearing of the ear. Now we're going to talk about that. It's really, what else do I hear with? I hear with my elbow. What do I hear with? Of course I hear with my ear, right? So let's do it one at a time. The first meaning of shmias ha'oizen, the hearing of the ear, means that I'm listening to the words of my Rebbe, of my teacher, as all the time that's possible. I want to maximize the time that I'm actually listening and learning. Okay? I'm listening to the words. I'm listening all the time. Now, when I'm in the class, I'm trying to focus. Now, people have problems focusing. That's okay. I'm not comparing myself to someone else who can focus like a laser beam. I don't mean that. It just means that I'm comparing myself to myself. Could I up the level? Could I up the game a little bit and focus more on this class? If I could, then that's what I need to do. That's called shmias ha'oizen. I'm inclined. I'm ready. I'm listening. I'm paying attention. So the first thing is as much time as possible in learning is listening. The second thing is to listen carefully and pay attention to details. The first one is quantity, the second one is quality. I want to get the details. Why did the Rebbe say that word and not that word? Why did he pick that example? Why does the Sefer say this and not that? Why be very specific? What's going on? Now the reason for that is a couple things, because if I miss even one detail, I might completely make an enormous mistake. The Rebbe said no when I thought he said yes. He said kosher when I thought he said kosher, but he said not kosher. It's possible. It's no good. So you can make an enormous mistake. But besides that, you can also make a mistake and think, you know what? I just spaced out for a minute, but the Rebbe mentioned something on the side that was such a gem, such an incredible, beautiful idea in Torah. Something that spoke to me. It would have spoken to me if I would have heard it. But I was not paying attention for a few minutes. I was thinking, like, wait, what time? Am I milchik yet? You know, can I eat ice cream yet? No, don't do that. I don't miss for a second. When I'm here 100% focused. Good. There's a story that the Chofetz Chaim gave a shmooze about tshuva. He was speaking about tshuva once, and one of his talmidim, Rav Shalom Ashishak, said to his friend, Rav Elchanan Wasserman, who was the main talmid of the Chofetz Chaim, he said to him, you know, I think the Rebbe said the same shir last year, word for word. And Rav Elchanan said, you're not right. He said this almost the same shir, but this year he added 8 words. Now, most of us are not on that level at all that we could possibly understand every word. Oh, this word, he left out a word. Oh, yeah, that's Rav Elchanan Wasserman Beseder. Yeah. But it means like, oh, I'm paying attention. This time he said it slightly differently. I'm paying attention. That's what it means. Now, it's not just enough to decide to listen, but the third one here is to give my ear the identity, the role, to dedicate my ear to learning Torah. What is the purpose of that thing? You know, there are certain things you have in your house that could have more than one purpose. But if it's for Abba, it's for Abba. It's for your father, yeah, Tati, right? Or it's for Mommy. That's Mommy's. Then no one uses it. That's Mommy's cup. Now that cup can be used for a lot of things and a lot of people, but that's Mommy's cup. No one touches it. Yeah, it's hers. It's dedicated for her. So no one. You're thirsty, looking for a cup. You're not going to use her cup. It's miyuchad for that. It's dedicated for that purpose. So the idea here is to give my ear the purpose of learning. The language of the Tiferes Yisrael in the Mishna says, Ratzalomar hakshava gedola, I'm listening very well. Shitzarach shiyached oznai, I'm dedicating my ear lahadavarim to the words that are being said. You know, if you have let's say you have a beautiful big backyard, right, and you want to have a pool for the summer. Beautiful pool, fantastic. So what do? I have this pool, I put an above ground pool, I'm using it. Now, the winter time comes, I drain the pool, but I want to use can use something. Let me put some storage, I'll put some storage inside of things I want to store inside the pool, and then I cover it over. I'm only going to use that pool for storage as long as it's not swimming time. But as soon as the weather gets warm and it's time to swim again, I'm going to get all that junk out of there and put it someplace else so I can use my pool for what it's really for, which is to swim in, not as a storage facility. That's not what I didn't buy it for that. That's the same idea here. My ear is for the purpose of listening to Torah. So when I get an opportunity to learn Torah, oh wait, that's what my ear is for. Let me use it for that. Now, part of this is number 4 in Shmiras HaOzen is selective listening. This is a very big deal. Everyone speaks about Shmiras Einayim. That's a very big deal, to guard your eyes and make sure you don't look in the wrong place for sure and look at the wrong things. But it's also a very big deal to have Shmiras Oznayim, to guard the ears. We speak about Shmiras HaLashon, what we say. We also have to be careful about what we hear. It's a very big deal. If things that are usher enter into our ears and enter into our minds, our ears and our minds become less receptive to Divrei Torah. So I have to watch out that I'm not talking around people that are speaking Lashon Hara about other people or speaking Nivel Peh, which is profanities and things of that sort. I have to be very careful as much as I can. Now, sometimes you're in a situation you can't avoid it. People are talking, you're in the car, what do? So you got earphones, put those earphones in. I'm sorry, I got to listen to something. I'm sorry, I'm a little spaced out, I want to relax. You make up some excuse. If they don't notice, probably they won't notice. It's even better. Sometimes the Sfarim say, and it's socially awkward to do this, but sometimes it's important to do this in certain contexts. You have to try to change the subject, but if they're not listening, they want to say the Lashon Hara anyway, you might have to put your fingers in your ears, or at least take these little lobes and put them in your ears as much as you can. Yeah, it's awkward, but I want to speak. I want to hear Lashon Hara. I don't want to hear that, and it's going to ruin my ability to learn Torah. I don't want that at all. So that's why it's an incredible idea to have Shmiras Oznayim, not just Shmiras Einayim, and not just Shmiras HaLashon. As a matter of fact, it goes even further. The Tana de Belial says that before a person prays that the Torah should enter into him, he should pray that Devarim B'Telim, that words of meaninglessness, of nothingness should leave him. If I'm filled up with all kinds of details about things that are not important in my life, it could be about sports, it could be all kinds of, who knows what it is, politics, all kinds of, it's not really important. I need to be aware of what's going on. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. That's another discussion. But I need to hear all the details. He said this, and they said that, and this would happen then, especially when it's a story that has nothing to do with what's really important in life. Then the more I'm filled with that, the less I can absorb Torah. I want to be able to absorb Torah, so I want to be careful. I be careful what I do. The Sfarim also said, there's a sefer called Pirkei Avos that says that the more I have my ears are pure and clear, the more the Torah is going to be misyashev in me, which means I'm going to remember it, I'm going to understand it, it's going to be settled inside of me. It's not going to be something that's not going to stick. Okay. Number 5 is Shmiras HaOzen, the listening of the ear, doesn't just mean I listen to the Rebbe, I listen to a shir. It also means, in general, I'm hearkening to the words of my friends, to my peers. I am willing to accept emes from whoever says it. I have to say something it's interesting, because what Hashem does, He puts the emes in very surprising places. The Mishna in Pirkei Avos says, Ezu chacham halom made me kol adam. Who's a wise man? I learn from everyone. Now, sometimes you learn what not to do. Sometimes people come up and they give you musar. There's a pasuk in Mishna that says, stop learning musar. Yeah? Don't keep making mistakes. Stop learning musar. Musar is important, self-improvement, right? But sometimes people give you musar that's completely wrong. It's wrong. They think they're right and they're self-justified. Yeah, at least you really need to do this. And they tell you, and that happens all the time. And they give you musar and they're wrong, and they don't know. They themselves are so steeped in the wrong vision that they don't know what it is. But you have to know that. That's important to know. It doesn't mean I accept musar and guidance from anyone and everyone for sure. But if someone tells me an emes, it's true. It's a true idea. I have to be open to the idea that, you know what, maybe a little kid is going to tell me Devar Torah. I heard Rav Shimon Schwab once. I believe he was in his 80s, and he's walking down the hallway of the Cheder in Washington Heights. He's one of the Gedolei Yisrael. He'd already gone through Tanakh, who knows how many times. Adam Golem Moed. And a little boy said, Rebbe, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. And Chumash, sure. He said, it says in the Torah by Akedas Yitzchak that Avraham Avinu took the fire, and he took the wood, and he took the knife, and then he went to do the Akedah. And Yitzchak says, Abba, I see the fire and I see the wood, but where's the seh? Where's the animal for the korban? And this little boy says, the Torah says that there was a knife there, but Yitzchak doesn't ask about the knife. Why is that? And Rav Schwab, who'd gone through Torah, massive Talmud Chacham, said, I never thought of that question. Great question, never thought about it. But here's a little kid who's opening him up to an idea. He said, I think the reason is because Avraham Avinu is being so sensitive to his son. Maybe he hid the knife. That's what he's doing. But this piece of emes, a beautiful piece of emes of Torah, came from the question of a little kid. to a gadol b'Yisrael. That's what it means, a lomen b'kol adam. So shmias ha'oizin, listening of the ear, means that I'm willing to hear Torah from any place. And Hashem even disguises and sometimes puts Torah in surprising places. Now, it doesn't mean I just go anywhere and I don't learn Torah from the, from the random person on the street. Of course, right? But it means if someone has a good vort, a good Torah, you gotta be open to it. Now, number 6 is the emphasis on the ears. It's shmias ha'oizin, listening with the ear, because this is teaching us it's not enough to learn Torah shebichsav, written Torah. For a man must be focusing, besides on written Torah, he has to learn on the Torah Shabbal Peh, on the Torah that's the oral Torah, which is the Mishna and the Gemara. It's very important for us. It's very easy. Now, let's go a little further. Why not just shmiya, just hearing? Tell me, because shmiya, because the word shmiya, hearing, sometimes means understanding. Like nasa and nishma will do, and then we'll understand. Nishma, it doesn't just mean physically hear. It means to understand. So it could be, if it just says b'shmiya, it could be, I think that means understanding. But no, it's actually physical hearing. I need to use the sense of hearing in order to learn Torah. Why is that a big deal? So I'll tell you a few things. This is an amazing idea. Every gift the Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us has to be used in His service. Kabed Hashem mehoinecha. Honor Hashem from your home, from your wealth. Simple meaning means you got a lot of money, have a beautiful talus, yeah? Be mechabed Shabbat, they give kavod Shabbos, like whatever it is, like make your mitzvahs beautiful, give tzedakah, use your money, good. But there's another meaning. The Yerushalmi says, instead of saying mehoinecha, which means from your wealth, mimashechanancha, what Hashem graced you with the abilities that you have. If you have a beautiful voice, use it to become a chazan, to sing tefillah. If you're very good you're organized, so go help people in a hospital or whatever it is, or make Shabbatons or whatever you do, help people become organized, organize the base matters, whatever it is, or your house, whatever you're doing. So that means that if we have a certain special ability, we should use that for Hashem. Of the 5 senses that we have, Chazal tell us the most important sense is the sense of hearing. Now, we may think the most important sense is maybe vision, because if I can see, I can do a lot more than hearing. But hearing spiritually is a bigger deal. In Ruchnius, it's a bigger deal. You don't say Re'ei Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You say Shema. You cover your eyes. So you focus on the hearing. The whole purpose is to hear. Hearing has a very deep chashivus, an importance. It's the greatest of the senses. And the greatest proof that everyone brings is an amazing idea. If chas v'shalom a person damages somebody else, you have to pay. If I hurt someone's hand, chalila, I have to pay for their hand. If I hurt their eye or blind them, chas v'shalom, I have to pay for their vision. There's a certain way of figuring out what that is. But if someone hurts someone by deafening them, they stop them from being able to hear permanently, then that person, the damager, has to pay for the value of the entire person. It's as if you killed him. Because shmiya, hearing, is the highest of the senses. And for that reason, the Torah is telling us, the Mishna is telling us right here, shmiya sa'oizim means you make sure that you use that most precious of senses to serve me. That's the purpose. I gave it to you to serve me. That's the purpose. How do you do that? There's one of the best ways to do it is to listen to Divrei Torah. That's shmias ha'oizin. The ear should be there doing it. That's a very, very big deal. There's a sefer called the Schus Avos on Pirkei Avos, and he says that Chazal say, if I incline my actual ear to hear Divrei Torah in this world, I'll be zeichel to learn Torah in the next world. Zeichel, what does that mean? That means like saying, okay, listen, if you clean the downstairs, I'll let you clean the upstairs. Like, what's the big chap? Like, I'll learn Torah? No. Because whatever you learn here, you learn up to your own ability. But if we've learned something, and then we are zeicha to learn that in Olam Haba, Hashem teaches it to us with complete clarity, deepest understanding, something that's beyond anything we can grasp in this world. So we want to get that. But that comes from learning, inclining our ear into Torah, listening to Torah while we're still alive. Now it goes even further. The Sefer Kol Avos brings from the Medrash, the Devarim Rabbah, he says, whoever comes to the Beit Knesset to learn Divrei Torah, comes to the Shul, comes to the Beis Medrash to learn Torah, will be zeicha to sit among the sages in Olam Haba. That is amazing. That's amazing. That means I might not know that much. I might not actually understand that much. I'm trying. There are people that are way beyond me. They understand more, they remember more, their depth is better than mine. But I go anyway. I'm going anyway. So that person is going to be zeicha to sit among the sages in the next world, which is incredible. There's another idea also. Everyone knows that one of the biggest complaints that teachers have and parents have, my kids won't listen to me. Oh, I wish my students will pay more attention to what I'm saying. Sometimes you have a good piece of advice. You're a father, you're a mother, and you really want to tell your kids something, and they just won't do it. And they're doing something so silly, it's harming themselves. They're not listening to you. They're not open to the idea. Why are you doing this? I wish you would listen to me. And there's a famous quote. I'm sure you've heard this a bunch of times. They say, Mark Twain said, when I was until the age of, let's say, 18 years old, I always knew more than my parents. And then between 18 and 25, I was surprised to see how much they learned in 7 years. So gosh, you want your kids to listen. You want not just do this, do that, but you want them for their own benefit, but sometimes they don't. So what gets people to hear your words? So the Pirkei Avos brings a Medrash Tanchuma, Parashas Kisavo, and he says, incredible idea. He says, if you listen to the words of the Rebbe, in the end, other people are going to listen to your words. It's based on the pasuk that says, Im shamaya tishma'u. Im shamaya tishma. If you hear, you will be heard. If you hear, you will be heard. There's even a pasuk, he doesn't bring this, there's a pasuk in Mishna that says, Ish shomea lenetzach yidaber. A person who listens, he will speak forever. Now what does that mean? I listen once, I listen to music, doesn't mean that. The word ish, which means a man, it means that's my umadis, that's who I'm about. An ish melchama is a man of war. I'm about war. I'm a master of war. I'm not just a person who fights. Yeah. Isha Torah, because of Bala Torah. Yeah. In this case, it says ish shomea, a person who listens, a man who. That's who I am. A listener. I'm listening. La netzach yidaber. He's going to speak forever. People are going to hear him. He's going to keep on talking because he learned so much. Good. The eighth one in Shmiyas HaOizen means go and hear Divrei Torah from a Rav. Don't just learn from a Sefer. You got to learn from Rebbe. It's important, but you have to go and hear them. One reason for that is because you're going to remember more if you learn from a Rebbe. You'll remember much more. If you just see it in the Sefer, it's a big deal. But the hearing makes more of an effect. Reb Chaim Volozhin says that in Ruach Chaim. The second thing is if the Rebbe gives us Musar, we're going to be able to appreciate that Musar and internalize it much more than if I learned it from a Sefer. There was a Rav in Or Samech many years ago who gave Shirim Thursday night, Rav Isby. Massive Talmud Chacham. My brother said he went to his house once for Shabbos. This is 30 years ago. And besides the fact that he was in Baki and Shas Bavli, he also had a Yerushalmi Gemara that was shredded. It was in pieces. It was falling apart from so much use. Incredible. So this Rav, he would give a very straightforward, simple Chumash shir. And if it was Thursday night, now nighttime you can't put on tefillin, right? But Thursday night he would just say the words, put on tefillin. I wanted to run out the door and put on tefillin right away. The fact that he said it was coming from a place of oimek halev, from the heart, and so much neshama, so much soul, so much emotion, so much care, and so much neshama coming through his words that you immediately want to put on tefillin. Right now. You can't wait till tomorrow morning, yeah? So if we see the words in the Sefer, it's amazing. And it'll affect us, and our neshama gets affected. But if you get it from someone who really, he cares. Not everyone will say the same thing, but personally, I love listening to Rav Pesach Kron, yeah? I've been listening for a long time. Even before Torah Anytime, I listened to his shirim a long time. He talks to you like he's your uncle and he cares about you. He cares about you. He wants you to get this idea. It's like, come on, you want to be happy. Come on, you could do this. It's like, I feel like he's talking right to me because his lave is there. So if I read the same words in a Sefer, it wouldn't be the same thing. I want to hear how to hear. Now, the flip side of this, by the way, which is very important to know, is don't waste the Rebbe's time and your time making him teach you things you could learn out of a Sefer. Yes, I need to have Shmiyas HaOizen, but I have to select what's the best use of the time that I have with this teacher. I don't want to ask an expert about something for Aleph-based things, for ABCs. I can learn the ABCs myself. I want to get that. So part of being able to appreciate hearing from someone else is to maximize my own fundamentals. Now, if I need to have someone teach me the fundamentals, then great. That's fine. That's what I need from a teacher, and that's what I should get. But if I don't need that, because you know what? I can learn that out of the Art Scroll Siddur, the translation, yeah? Or I can practice that one idea myself. Then why waste his time or her time, and why waste my own time with them when I could be doing something that's on a higher level? I really appreciate their greatness. That's the idea. Good. Now, once you know what Torah says also, go get a Rav to teach it to you. Why? Because I know it already, what do you mean? But we only know things on a certain depth. If I hear the same Maimer Chazal, the same Gemara, the same Mishna, the same Pasuk, but I hear it now from someone who's, wow, you're a tzaddik, you're a Talmud Chacham, a Tzedekis, and I hear her say it with all that Yiras Shamayim she has and all those Midas Tovos, it's a completely different planet. Which means that Shmias HaOizim means keep my ears open and don't say, I know that already. Okay, you know it already, fine. I was going to tell you something amazing you never heard before, but fine, you know it already, no problem. Yeah? Don't do that. You have to stay open. That's what it means. Now, another meaning of Shmias HaOizim is go to the shir and hear the shir, even if the only thing you get is your ears hearing, but your mind doesn't understand. There's two reasons for this. One is because eventually you will understand. If you keep going, Hashem sees you're serious, you want it. You have to work hard, of course. You have to do what you can. Now, sometimes you have to pick, say, wait a second. The shir is way above me. I'll never get that shir. There's no point in going. If I go to some Kabbalah shir, it's a complete waste of time for me. I will not understand it. But I could go with shir that's above me, that's a bit of a stretch, and work and work and work. This is one of the biggest things, people, they could really benefit from certain shiurim, but I feel like I only started 5%, but that's after that's the beginning. You're only there for a day or so. Don't judge the shiur based on what you first understand. It takes a while to get used to the style or the level of the shiur. But it could be after a period of time, you'll do very well. Rav Asher Arieli Shlita, massive tzaddik and Talmud Chacham in Yerushalayim, he gives the biggest shiur. He gives the shiur on the radio. People listen to the shiur on the radio. Thousands of people listen to the shiur. Amazing. He gives shiur in Yiddish. Yeah, people don't know Yiddish. So what do? They hand out a nice translation from Yiddish to Hebrew or Yiddish to English. The whole shir is in Yiddish, yeah? And people work on it. When they first go to the shir, they don't understand much at all. But they keep going and going and working, and they get it. I know one of my sons, Baruch Hashem, he's being in that shir right now. It's fantastic. Yeah, he didn't know any Yiddish, very little Yiddish, abyssal, that's about it. But he worked and he's got this studying his sheets, he works, good kid, yeah? Doing the right thing. Good. Now, the other idea about Shmiras HaOizim means I'm taking counsel and eitzah from others. Not just from Rav, in general. It means that if I want to be able to receive Torah, I need to be able to receive in general from other people. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. If I'm a brain surgeon and I want to do brain surgery in a perfectly precise way, it is critically important that when I wash my dishes, I'm not sloppy. I don't leave my laundry around the house, because how you do anything is how you do everything. If I wash my dishes in a sloppy way, or leave my clothes around the house, or my shoes out someplace, I'm leaving sloppiness on my neshama. I'm inculcating an idea of lack of order and preciseness in myself. So when it comes to doing brain surgery, I'm going to be a little bit less precise, and I won't be able to do it as well. Now, don't be nervous. Don't freak out. Don't go, it's okay. Be relaxed. Do what you got to do, right? But it means, in general, if I'm open to hearing what people have to say, then when it comes to Torah, I'll be open as well. If I can hear from someone else, then I can hear certainly from Hashem. If I accept the eitzah of someone else, the advice of someone else, then I can accept the atzas Hashem, the advice from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is very critically important. That's what it means Shmiras HaOizim. It means don't be so quick. Now, I can't get advice from any person anywhere. You'd be surprised. You have to be careful. Sometimes you get the wrong advice. It happens all the time. You have to be careful that it's the right thing, not the wrong thing. But very often, at least be open to the idea, you know what? That person could really be, there's a lot of things in the world to know. And who cares if they're 10 years younger than me? Who cares? Very often they have a good idea. And I'll tell you a beautiful example of this. There was, many, many years ago, there was a big truck driving, and he went underneath an overpass, an overpass, and he didn't pay attention to the clearance, of the height. And his truck got stuck. It caused a massive traffic jam in both directions. They're trying to pull it out. They brought emergency vehicles. They brought a tow truck. They could not get this truck out. He must have hit it very hard. He was stuck, wedged really strong into the overpass. Couldn't get out. So meanwhile, this kid is looking, and he sees a policeman. He says, excuse me, sir. He's like, no, we're busy now. For 20 minutes, this kid badgered the policeman. The policeman finally said, yes, kid, what do you want? What do you want already? Like, we're trying to get this truck out. So the kid says, did anyone try taking the air out of the tires? The policeman looked at him like, I'll get back to you on that. They took the air out of the tires, they rolled the truck back, no problem. Sometimes Hashem, like we said before, Hashem puts wisdom in the funniest places. So the fact that I'm open to hear other people means that Hashem says, you open to hear other people, you open to hear me too. Awesome. Good. Now, by the way, like we said before, you still have to be selective. Doesn't mean my mind is wide open, like be able to, accept anything from anyone. Obviously, there's certain people going to give me advice, you don't trust them. they haven't earned your trust, or you know that they have negative motivations. You have to be careful, of course, doesn't mean anybody. Now, the last thing is, which we're going to speak about in the next one, which you leaned at there, is Shmias Ha'ozim means make my ears hear what my mouth is saying. When I learn, it's important not to just whisper with my lips. I have to say it out loud, nice and clear. It's interesting. First of all, if you learn in a way that you hear what you're saying, it uses another capacity. Instead of just learning when you speak, instead of just using your speech and your vision, you're also using your hearing now. And that makes you understand better, and it makes you remember better. But besides that, if you're making a mistake when you're learning the words, you're saying the words, sometimes your brain produces the words, and you make a mistake. If you don't hear it, you won't catch it. But when you hear yourself say the word that's wrong, you often catch this. You see this a lot when you have in Pirkei Torah. You have the Balkari goes up and he reads the word. He said the word wrong, but he corrects himself because he heard the mistake. And of course, there's this famous idea that you've heard this before. There's a Gemara that says there was a Talmud, one of the Talmidim, a Talmud Chacham, was learning, and for 3 years he was learning quietly, balachash. And after 3 years, he forgot all that learning he did in 3 years. So you have to make sure you learn loud. You know, it's not a library. I had a chavrusa once. For a period of time, I was working in Manhattan. I was in the lower part of Manhattan, and he was in the upper part, the other way around. And we met in the 42nd Street Library, a massive library. They had this Jewish Judaica section there with big Gemaras, right? And we're sitting down, we're learning in a deserted room, a room on the side. There's nobody there. It's totally quiet, right? And I have my Gemara, and he has his Gemara. We're sitting opposite each other. We're learning, and this and that. And all of a sudden, I see this hand come down, bang, right between the two Gemaras. And this lady says, "This is not a Beit Midrash. This is a library." Shh. I understand. The truth is, if we're disturbing someone, we have to be quiet. I understand it. But fortunately for us, the rules of a base medrash is to be loud. Yeah. That's it. You can't only call it up shot. What are you talking about? You get this? You see what the Gemara is saying? It's givaldi. You got to be loud. That's how you get and that's how kids learn. Kids learn fully involved. They don't just say sit quietly in the classroom. Now, you have to do that because it's someone's teaching. You have to be respectful. But the real way to learn is to be involved. As many senses as possible involved. Kids will look at something, they'll take a look at it, they'll smell it, they'll lick it, they'll move it, they'll play with it, they'll sit on it, they'll do everything. That's the way you want to learn. At least use your hearing in a way that you can hear what you're saying. Make it lebendig. That's how you get the Torah. Lots of love, continued bracha v'atzlacha. Keep on going. Be'ezer Hashem, we shall be zeichet to have a gewaltige Kabbalah Satira on Shavuos coming up, and even after Shavuos, the whole year, the Gans Yor Freilich.